I'm so excited to have everybody here on the webinar with us. We are thrilled that everyone will be able to kind of interact with us, ask questions, and we're going to take you through a few things in the proofing and approvals space. So first off, we're going to go into what Hive is, how teams use proofing, and then do a quick in-app demo. Okay, also your webinar hosts. Today you have myself, you have Kate, the two Zoom challenged individuals. And then as your Hive support team, a lot of people know you can go into the upper right-hand corner of Hive and click on that blue question mark, which will allow you to ask our team questions at any time and we'll be able to get back to you. They're very, very knowledgeable, very prompt, and they will be great resources for you if you have any questions while you're in Hive and you really want to get into some of the details of the app. If you don't know about Hive, I know that everyone here is a customer, but we are a project and process management platform built for collaboration between teams. We help streamline work into one central location, and we're community built. I know a lot of people here have voted on features in our Canny board, which is just our hiveteams.canny.io URL, which basically allows us to understand what you guys like to see, how we can improve existing functionality, and it allows our team to work closely with anyone who needs either to get additional product feature and functionality built out or who has different ideas for Hive. And you'll often see Kate or myself or Kelly kind of in there responding to things and moving things forward. So yes, that is that's a really exciting component of Hive that I really enjoy. So today we're talking about proofing. Proofing is an extremely powerful app in Hive, and I would say that this is probably my favorite app in Hive, which is why I'm hosting this webinar. Proofing as a marketer, and having been at Hive for many years, it has saved me time and time again. We've heard from clients that it increases speed by over 40% with approvals. It saves 12 hours a week on average. It allows them to combine all of their different disparate tools into one place. That means that instead of jumping back and forth from Slack to Google Docs to Teams to a million other different tools, you're able to do it all in Hive. And you're also able to have external proofers in Hive, which is something that not a lot of tools allow you to access within the ecosystem, or at least the way that they do it. I find a bit complicated, having tested many of them myself. And we have a ton of teams that use proofing in Hive. These are just a few of them. We have Vega. We have a great case study with them on our website. They actually rebranded a lot of their protein powders and protein veggie-based drinks via Hive proofing. Hive proofing essentially helped them facilitate the rebrand and streamline it. They're sold in a ton of stores like Whole Foods, Safeway, Publix, all of those. So they needed to make sure that all of their ducks were in a row, essentially, to make sure they were able to execute. And then before I get into a little bit more about proofing, we have some great quotes, one from Vega, which said, "I feel like my creative partners would talk all day about how much they loved proofing and approvals. When we talk about a full brand refresh and managing 150 plus artworks, it has been an absolute godsend to be able to have everything in one tool." So there are some other quotes as well that really highlight proofing and approvals ability to streamline everything in one place, which I love. And then from a functionality perspective in the app, it's incredibly simple, which I really like. Essentially, all you have to do is add proofs to an action card, and you can handle everything in the proofing and approvals functionality from that one action card, which is great. And I've had a lot of people call that out specifically. The action card, the proofing in the action card is something that really helps Hive to stand out. Okay, now we're going to get into some of my favorite parts of these webinars, how teams use proofing and approvals. I have 3 use cases that I want to take everyone through. So the first one is a marketing team at a large performing arts organization. So this organization specializes in all types of performing arts. We have theater, ballet, music, opera, live performance, recorded performance. And during COVID, they found it was very difficult, obviously, to manage not only the recorded performances, the in real life performances, all of the elements that they needed to make sure that their business was continuing to make money and people were able to understand the availability of the recorded materials or able to get tickets in a COVID-friendly way. And it was really challenging for them, especially as they were all in a city majorly affected by COVID, to figure out how to streamline materials and make sure that everything was running smoothly. And this is how they did it. So they have a few elements of Hive, and they started with a weekly calendar. So they essentially wanted to have on their website a weekly calendar of all the content and that they would be putting out every week, so people could check weekly and decide what they wanted to virtually attend, how they wanted to um, take in the media, if that was on social or a live stream. And they essentially wanted to create a calendar in Hive that had every event as a task in a calendar view. And from there, they were able to then have every task as one of those events, with the subtasks being the different elements that they needed to execute on. So the way they did that was through one of my other favorite parts of Hive, approval templates. I find them incredibly satisfying. I'll be showing everyone in the demo shortly. It's essentially just a way to very, very quickly take a preconceived routing system of approvals. So let's say when I'm submitting a social media asset for approval, I want Kate and I want our CEO to look at it. I'm able to put in a very specific approval system in that proofing request format, so that every time I submit a social asset for approval, I don't have to go in and add all of the stages again. It's really easy for me to just it's essentially a way to copy and paste and streamline over and over and over all of those approvals. So for this organization, they had someone who needed to upload recorded video assets every time that an event happened or after it wrapped. So what they were able to do was, with that approval template, it needed to be approved by 4 different people in their organization. Once they uploaded that asset as a proof, the person and the 4 different people in that organization were added as 4 different approvers, and they were able to quickly work through the proofing and approval statuses. Fun fact, Hive proofing has MP4 and video, so that's excellent. So if you would like to proof and approve videos, it's no problem. And from there, they were able to basically confirm all different statuses of all of these proofing components, streamline content, and get it up on the website. I mean, incredibly fast compared to what it would be like if they were transitioning information through email. It's hard to mock up a video. I don't even know how I would do that if I didn't have Hive proofs. So this is a great example of how an organization used COVID as an opportunity to streamline and organize all of their assets digitally, and then also use proofing and approvals across a wide range of asset types, everything from PDFs to MP4s to JPEGs to web pages, and they were really able to proof very quickly and use our approval templates to help them. Another example, I know several people on this webinar right now work at agencies, and I, in my previous life, worked at an agency before Hive in 2017, and we worked a lot with one particular client, but I know a ton of agencies. You're working with several clients, especially like smaller, medium agencies. This specific agency was a branding and creative agency, and they worked with a ton of different clients. And what they found, they started with us before COVID, but I've obviously helped them through COVID as well, that it was hard for them to keep every member of their team in the loop, as well as the client. So like they wanted the client to be able to have external proofing rights at the end of the process, while maintaining the visibility of their internal team throughout the proofing flow. And so as you can see here, the solution was all client materials were proofed and approved internally in Hive. So that means that anything that came in that would need internal review would need to be put through any like press review, any internal brand consistency review, all of it would come into Hive. And they have a really cool system for the way that they structured material in Hive. So for this specific agency, every new client was a project. And so they would bring that client in through a Hive form. They had an intake process. And from there, the form would create a project, which is an automatic component of Hive. They would also start a chat for that project. So anyone who was invited to that project would then be automatically added to the chat. So not only did they have action cards and those proofs as a way to keep everyone accountable and understand what was going on throughout the process and the campaigns, but they also had those chats as well. And they had that form to really streamline all of the intake information initially, which was great. They also had, once those materials were developed throughout the campaign, they were able to really easily send those materials to their external clients. And for me, when I was at my agency, one of the main issues we had was that period between the finalizing, what you think is the finalizing of the asset, and then the client actually approving it. There were typically many, many rounds of feedback that went on there. And what's great about Hive in this use case specifically is that you're able to add multiple rounds, and the external approver or the client does not have to have Hive access, and they're able to go in and add a variety of different pieces of feedback to the document itself, which I'll show you in the demo next. So the agency use case is a very strong one that we see over and over again with proofing and approvals. Another really cool example, I wanted to do something a little bit different with this example. So we have a publishing house. They market novels, they distribute them, and they publicize them. They're based in the city, New York City, and they have a ton of work. They need to make sure that everything is being tracked properly. And obviously the components of, I have never really thought about how much work would go into mocking up, editing, approving, sending out for press, an actual book. I mean, I just can't even begin to imagine it. So when they brought everything into Hive, it was extremely helpful. And so their solution was all book covers, promotional materials, and edits are created and tracked in Hive. And similarly to the agency example, this team is obviously an in-house team, but they still created, for every book, it was a project. They started with that project. From within that project, they could create sub-projects, as many as they needed, but they also had action templates for each book. So every book that would come in, they would have a press action template, a design action template. That is different from the approval templates, but that would allow them to basically ensure that they had those same repeatable processes every time. And so when it came down to the finalized asset task, they would be able to upload a proof and work through that process without missing any steps. And then for this specific user, they also had an external PR team that would review and yes, you can create an approval template that has external approvers. I'll demo that in a few seconds, but yes. And so they had also, again, that external PR team of approvers. So a little bit different from the previous example I mentioned, but this team would send it off to their PR team basically for approval, like, check, make sure that this is okay to publish. And obviously there's high stakes for the specific group, because if something goes to publish and it's, published on thousands of covers and it's not approved, that's not great. So Hive was really a grounding tool for them that allowed them to easily track and optimize their process, as opposed to constant back and forth with no log. Who wants to use email anyways? So now that I've walked us through a few different use cases, I'm going to quickly switch over and do a quick demo of Hive so I can show you a bit about how Hive works. And now that you have a few examples of different functionality and proofing. So we are in Hive, Glorious Hive. So this is a new workspace that I've opened for this specific use case. And there are a few different ways to embark on proofing. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure from apps right here on the left-hand corner, you have enabled proofing and approvals. You'll see it is a premium app, but you can test it for 14 days. If you're interested in potentially upgrading, you don't have proofing and approvals, please reach out to your account rep or me, Michaela@hive.com, and I will offer some custom assistance and we can work on getting you set up. So once proofing and approvals is enabled, you will then be able to add your proofs and approval sequences to each action card. And here is a little breakdown of the type of files that are supported in proofing. So there's documents, images, videos, and other. So it's your basic document type. So PDF, doc, docx, PowerPoints, and for images, we have JPEG, PNG, videos as well, and a few others like XML and XPS. But if you have any that you would like to see in Hive in the future, please let us know. I would love to hear your feedback. So here's an example of a proof that I've already added into Hive, but I'm going to show you just from scratch. I'll create a new action, Michaela test. And something that just to note is that when you enable a proof, proofing and approvals app in your workspace, you do need to be an admin to kind of turn on that functionality for your workspace. And once that is done, it will come here into each action card. So it's easy, and every action card can serve as the starting point for a proof. So to have any proofs added into your action card, simply just go to add proof. I can take, let's say I want to proof an image from hive.com that our amazing designer Rebecca created. It is going to upload this image into Hive. It is going to give me a little preview of what this proof looks like. From here, you'll see these little icons. This is obviously when I uploaded the proof. Here, I'm able to rename it. So Michaela proof save. I'm also able to lock the proof. So let's say you've had all the feedback, you're running a team and you're like, I don't want anyone else giving feedback on this proof, just lock it. You can also delete it. So if I uploaded the wrong proof and I want to bail, I can just press delete. And then to edit the proof or to provide proofing and approval, just click into it. And from here, you're taken into our glorious proofing and approval dashboard. So from here, I'll show you a mocked up action card or a mocked up proof after this, but there are really a lot of options for what you can do. There's the basic capability of clicking in, adding a note, and you can say, please change this color. I can save that. Let's say Kate or our CMO were to come in and wanted to reply to that. They could go in and say accepted, mark it as none, mark it as completed, or add a reply back. There are other options to add shapes into your proofs to freeform. I'm not particularly gifted in the art department, but you can add in all types of shapes. You can add in anything that you would need to basically alert your team to changes that would need to be made within the proof itself. You're also able to measure as well as cross through text, add potential new text that you're interested in seeing. Also, you're able to fill and sign, which essentially means like you're adding your approval stamp. So let's say someone on your team is sending this out to your the publisher or the PR agency that's working to publish. Click approve, and that way you know that this document has been approved. So there are a lot of really exciting ways to work with proofing and approvals in Hive. Obviously, everyone has different preferences for how they mark things as approved. Typically, what I like to do with my team is I will add comments, and then I will also just use any type of drawing or denotation or figures to just add in content. But there are so many different ways to do it and so many different ways to make that content visible. You can change the color, you can make it bold, you can make it italic. There's so many great options. We also have a phenomenal undo button. Something I always need in my life. You can click undo right here or redo if you want to remove or reinsert back into your proof. There's also the ability to zoom in and out. Phenomenal. And then just something to note, if you use Adobe products, you'll understand that there's there are different ways to readjust or zoom in and zoom out of your proof. So there's a great help document I'll pass along after in case you're looking at your document and you're thinking like, oh, I don't quite know how to move around this. We'll be sure to send that out. There is a bit of a learning curve as with everything. So I will quickly exit out of this, and a quick way to exit out is to just press the escape button on your computer. Proofing also has a series of hotkeys, which basically allow you to type in a few things in your keyboard, and then actions will automatically be taken, which is very exciting. Okay, so now that we understand the basics of a proof, I'm going to walk you through the concept of approvals. So like I mentioned, proofs are great. And sometimes we do see teams just putting a proof in and using that functionality to vet or communicate about a proof. But something that I really love as a manager is the ability to add approval stages. So essentially, this is just me communicating to the people that need to approve or vet a document for me. So let's say I have this image, I want our designer to review it. I want them to review it by tomorrow. I also want our SEO lead to review this. And then I want an external approver to review this. So I'm going to add in an old email of mine And this external approver is also going to be added into this stage of approving. So a few things that you can do from here. You can just click request approval. This will send each of these people a notification and an email that says that they have been requested to approve a document. The external approver obviously isn't going to be in the nitty-gritty of Hive day-to-day, so they're just going to be able to get an email, and from that email, click into a window that will show them that proofing functionality in their desktop, in their browser, which is great. You can also save this as a template. So let's say I have a lot of documents that are going to need these 3 people to approve and to provide feedback. Save it as a template. I can save it as whatever I need, save it as a template, and then I can go ahead and apply that template throughout the process. So let's say I have another image that my team needs to review. I need to add a new file version. Any of those things, this is going to be a great system for ensuring that consistency. And again, from a marketing perspective, it's incredibly helpful. A few other things to note here. There are a few different functionalities that you can use to optimize automatic changes essentially in Hive once something is approved. So obviously when someone gets approved, if someone doesn't approve it or changes are requested, you can change the status automatically of the proof. So you know, so if Adam says, changes requested, this isn't right for me, we can mark it as in progress. If approved, we can change it to completed. And this is just a way to essentially automate your tasks and approvals in Hive. You can also click this, which is restart round unless all are approved. So let's say Addison and my external user do not approve it, but Adam does. The round will be restarted if those 2 people do not approve. So I will be requesting approval here. And then it will show me this little button awaiting approval. I will be able to send a reminder to those approvers here. Just click on this little email. And then let's say I think, I need our CEO to approve it as well. I will be able to go in and add a separate stage, which is super helpful because sometimes, for example, our publisher has campaigns or promotional sessions that last 4 months. If they want to go in and add another stage to their approval process, I have found that to be super helpful. And something to note is that these due dates are independent of the action card due date. These due dates and due times are set specifically for the proof itself. You can also duplicate, add, or delete a round directly from that round. So here you can see I could quickly duplicate the round. I could quickly, and that will just kind of fold that round above. I could also, if I want to delete round, delete. And it's quite easy to do that all from this hub. Again, this information is contained within this proofing and approval window. And just an example of, let's say I'm coming in on a proof that has already been proofed and been reviewed. What I would have to do, let's say Addison tagged me in this, I needed to click in and give my feedback. I would come in and see her feedback, and then I'd be able to go in and leave comments. So let's say remove this, yes, no problem. I would leave my feedback, I would mark it as completed, and the team would be able to see how we've made progress throughout the proofing process. You can also lock a proof from inside the proofing and approvals lovely window here. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. We'll be sending out more information later on today, as well as a recording. So thank you, everybody, and hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, guys.